Lighting and Pre-Production, online video production course at North Hennepin Community College. This is Gina Dabrowski. We'll be covering lighting, pre-production, the proposal, and the script. The mise en scène is a French word that means putting into the scene. So film directors use the term mise en scène to signify their control over what appears in the frame. So the mise en scène includes the setting, the lighting, which we will also look at, costume, how the figures behave. So the director stages the event for the camera. So in this film clip from The Wild One done in 1953, the mise en scène was staged in such a way as to signify who's the boss. So what makes Marlon Brando stand out? Well, if you said that he's the only one with his hands outside of his pockets and that sets him apart from the rest of the gang, then you'd be right. So that's how that is staged, so that Marlon Brando can stand out as that leader. The intensity, direction, and quality of light has a huge effect on the way an image is perceived. Light affects the way colors are rendered, both in terms of hue and depth, and can focus our attention on particular elements of the composition. Most mainstream films rely on the three-point lighting style. Other films, for example documentaries and realist cinema, rely on natural light to create a sense of authenticity. Did you know that without light there is no color? So color is a component of light. So try this out. In a well-lit room, focus on a colored object. Say, for instance, something brightly colored. In my kitchen I have a really bright orange microwave. Then turn off the lights and see if you can see the color. Three-point lighting is a basic technique of Hollywood cinema, and it's been the standard lighting scheme for classical narrative cinema as well. So three-point lighting is used in order to model an actor's face or perhaps an object, gives it a sense of depth, and the light comes from three directions. So one is a backlight, picks out the subject from its background. A bright key light, or the main light, highlights the object or the subject. And a fill light is on the opposite side of the main light or the key light, and that fills in those faint shadows. So that's called the fill light. So the common arrangement using three directions of light on a scene are: 1, from the behind the subject, which is the backlighting; 2, one bright light source, which is the key light. You can think of that key light as the sun. So if you're outside, our key light is the sun. And then thirdly, a less light bright source balancing the key light is called the fill light. And that's to fill in those shadows that can be created by the key light. So here we see a graphic where you can see the key light or the main light is on the left and the fill is on the right, and then the backlight comes from behind the object or the subject. You can put the key light on either the left or right side, but just understand that the fill light is going to go on the opposite side and be less intense and not as bright. So the main light or the key light is the main illumination of your subject. And again, think of that as the sun if you were outdoors. The fill light is on the opposite side, and that fills in those shadows. And then the backlight helps to separate that subject from the background. Here's an example of three-point lighting. Lauren Bacall and Rock Hudson are very glamorous in the way that they have been balanced by this three-point lighting. This is from a film still written on the wind done in 1956 by Douglas Sirk. So you can see they have a nice main light or key light filling in those shadows with the fill light, and then they're separated from the background as well. High key lighting is a lighting scheme in which the fill light is raised to almost the same level as the key light. So it produces images that are usually very bright and that features very few shadows on the principal subjects or objects. So this bright image is characteristic of entertainment genres such as musicals and comedies. So in high key lighting, it's an overall approach of illumination that can suggest different lighting conditions or a time of day. So if you want to render a brightly lit situation like a dazzling ballroom or a sunny afternoon, you would use that high key lighting, making the key light and the fill light almost the same intensity. Here's an example of high key lighting in the film Peking Opera Blues. So the subjects have less modeling. They're evenly lit on both sides. There's not any shadows because the main or the key light and the fill light are almost equally balanced. Frontal lighting is recognized by its tendency to eliminate shadows. And in this film by Jean-Luc Godard, La Chinoise, you can see that there are no shadows whatsoever in this frontal lighting situation. Top lighting is where lighting comes from above a person or an object, usually in order to outline the upper areas of the figure or to separate it more clearly from the background. So here in Shanghai Express, done in 1932 by Sternberg, you can see that lovely light falling and cascading onto her face. But it also creates those kind of deep shadows and shadows underneath her face as the light is shining from above. Top lighting, as seen here in Asphalt Jungle, directed by John Huston, creates a really dramatic composition. You can see how the light from above emphasizes the protagonist, which is the main character, making him the most frontal and important. So you can use light as a way to make the characters you want stand out from among the others. Low-key lighting is a lighting scheme that employs very little fill light. So you have strong contrast between the brightest and darkest parts of an image. It creates these really strong shadows that obscure parts of the principal subjects. So this lighting scheme, low-key lighting, is often associated with hard-boiled or suspense genres such as film noir, which is also called dark film. The term film noir means dark film. So low-key illumination, it creates these stronger contrasts and sharper, darker shadows. So often the lighting is hard and the fill light is lessened or eliminated altogether. In this example from Cat People, done in 1942 by Robert Weiss, it was a horror film, and you can see that low-key illumination from underneath because the light shines up and you can see the underside of the brim of his hat is illuminated and his chin is brighter than the top part of his face. In this film noir, which was part of filmmaking from the 40s and 50s, we have Touch of Evil by Orson Welles. And this was done in 1958. So you can see how that low-key illumination sets the tone for the film. In this example of Canal in 1957, this film still, you can see how those harsh highlights are on one side. The harsh highlight on one side of the woman's face, that's the really bright side, and a very deep shadow on the other side because there is no fill. So you've got that single kind of highlight created. Backlighting is illumination that is cast onto the figures in the scene from the side opposite the camera, so usually creating a thin outline of highlighting on those figures. But you can position that backlighting at many different angles. You can put it above the figure or off to the side. You can actually even point it straight at the camera, or perhaps from below. It does tend to create silhouettes. In this example, you can see that silhouette in Citizen Kane done in 1941 by Orson Welles. Underlighting is an illumination from a point below the figures in the scene. It tends to distort the figures. It's often used to create dramatic horror effects. It indicates, in this case, it indicates a realistic light source, such as a flashlight. So in this film still from The Sixth Sense done in 1998, you can see the flashlight from below illuminating the boy's face. Rembrandt lighting is where only one or two bright sources of light are used and no fill light at all. It's also called north lighting. The director Cecil B. DeMille was credited with with the term Rembrandt lighting, and here is an example of that in the film called The Cheat. So pre-production is the planning stage, and it's like creating a blueprint for the construction of a house. So it's going to require that you draw up your contracts and prepare your release forms. That pre-production includes the proposal, the script, your shot list, and a shooting schedule. So in the proposal, it's made up of different components. The first thing is the working title. So give your proposal a title that will allow the reader to understand the concept and distinguish it from the other projects. The medium is the type of the way that you'll be shooting this, in which case it's video and it's going to be released online. So in the proposal, you want to give a rationale. Why? Tell us why it's important that you make this project. You also have a scenario or synopsis, and this is just an outline of the storyline. In the proposal, you don't provide a full script. The scenario should include a treatment, as we'll talk about, that you'll use in your script. But really, you're just telling people, what's the story about? What is the story going to cover? What's an outline of that story? The script is a written version of your video, and in our case, it's that personal narrative that we're going to be making that's used in preparing for the production. So you'll want your shot list. You'll include the characters and the technical considerations, such as the camera angle shots, long shot, medium shot, close-up, and the transitions. You'll want to outline a simple sequence from your production. So think about starting with a wide shot that shows the entire setting. That gives people an idea of that establishing shot where they know where this is all going to take place. So tell the story with the composition and where the subject is situated. You can add either a cut-in or a close-up of the detail or a cutaway from the main action to a related action. And then come back to another establishing shot to reestablish where the subject is. There are many types of treatment, and I'm only going to point out the ones that we're interested in using, which is the documentary, where you would report real events. Your documentary treatment will be scripted in order for you to plan your project. A dramatic treatment is a model for a mock situation that simulates reality. And then the combination of that documentary and dramatic treatment is a docudrama. So you can mix the documentary and the dramatic treatment together to create this docudrama. A shot list is a breakdown of the script into its individual shots. So it includes the shot number, so shot 1, shot 2, shot 3, and then each of those is described, and you give the visual content. So describe the scene. In this case, 3 people are standing at a bus stop. Then the technical content. So you're going to fade up from black to a long shot. Then how long are you going to shoot? Put that in there as well. So the time, 5 seconds. The 180-degree rule states that you must make all of your shots from one side of the line. It's used for reaction shots. If you cross the line, the character is going to appear to be facing the wrong direction. So you've got this imaginary axis of action, that 180-degree line, and just remember to keep the camera on the one side of that half circle. Because if you cross the line, then you break the 180-degree rule, as we see here. So in the top image, we've got the man toasting on the left and the woman is sitting on the right. And in the second 2 frames, it's flopped, and the woman is on the left, although she should be on the right, keeping her on the right in both of these frames. So in the cutaway, she should also be on the right side. In this last one, well, the woman is on the right. However, she has to face the left and be on the right side of the frame. So these are examples where you break that rule and you disorient the viewer because you've now given an establishing shot where she is on the right side and he is on the left, and you have to maintain that by keeping the camera on that 180-degree axis in order to abide by the 180-degree rule. So the pre-production wrap. You've made your proposal, the script is finished, and now you're ready to shoot a well-planned production. You have your camera in hand, your lights are set. AD, turn on the lights. Roll tape.